Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What we have for you today, as well as the usual preview of Game Week 33, we are going to merge it with our wildcard video because I am actually using my wildcard chip on my own team this game week. As we are recording, Newcastle are currently beating Spurs 5-0 after 20 odd minutes. So I still have Harry Kane's 1 or 2 points to add into my review of this game week, so it probably won't affect it too much as it stands. And if you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. It is really appreciated, especially as we get into the later stages of the season. If you are still playing Fantasy League and keeping us up to date with it as I am, hopefully these videos will still be helping you out. So let's get into my review team here, and we start with the defense. And it was a pretty good game week overall. I did use my free hit chip. That Arsenal game on Friday night was just all over the place. And you look at that and say maybe you should have captained Saka, but really Saka was a couple of minutes away from not getting his goal. And Salah did score against Nottingham Forest. So whilst it wasn't the best captain, it was still profitable and they still did get some attacking returns. I was a bit disappointed the Liverpool clean sheet didn't happen. I think Nottingham Forest had scored like one in the last 15 away games or something daft like that, and they managed to score two against Liverpool, so that wasn't ideal. It just goes to show how up and down the Premier League can be. But Trent and Ben White did both get assists. Ollie Watkins obviously didn't score as soon as I get him in, but Ivan Toney did get a goal and 3 bonus points. Does tend to get bonus points when he scores, Ivan Toney, which is fantastic. And he's on 19 goals for the season as it stands. The bench actually scored pretty well as well. So if you could use two chips such as free hit and bench boost in the same game week, this probably wouldn't have been the worst week to do it. But like I say, very happy with the game week score and the 300k rise in rank. That top million place still looks up for grabs for my team, which would be pretty good considering, it was about 5 million after the World Cup. So as we talked about, we are going to look at two sets of fixtures here because if you are wildcarding in game week 33 like me, I do think it is something to bear in mind that you need to consider how your team looks in game week 34 as well. This is a prime opportunity to make use of the double game week, and if you've still got your bench boost, I would definitely be using it in game week 34. In terms of which players to look for captaincy from game week 33, I would say Man United and Man City are pretty obvious looks. I think if you do like the look of Arsenal's attack and someone like Saka, I think go for that as well. It's at that stage of the season where you can afford to take a few more risks if you're chasing rank. So I do think that it's something worth bearing in mind if that is your state of play for your team. So on to the team for game week 33, and I'm still standing by my Leicester goalkeeper. I think it's because he's so cheap, but Leeds away is a pretty good fixture for Leicester as well. You like to think after their last win in this game week that they might have a bit of momentum moving forward. And I'm still sticking with Trent. I think he was on all the free kicks and corners, and he was really playing some dangerous balls into that Nottingham Forest defence. I think he could have easily walked away with a couple more assists than what he did. And I've gone with Dan Burn in defence as well, rather than Kieran Trippier. I think, it's kind of amazing that Newcastle scored five in the first 20 minutes at all. But I also think it's even more amazing that Trippier wasn't involved in any of them. And I think that does go to show that maybe his assists have dried up a bit. And he is that premium price now, about 6.2 million. I think if you get a cheap Newcastle defender in like Dan Burn, I think that covers the Newcastle clean sheet and gives you that extra 1.5, 1.6 million that you might be able to use elsewhere in your team. Gone with Lewis Dunk as a Brighton defender. Brighton do have three double game weeks before now and the end of the season, and while some of those doubles are quite tricky, I do think he's someone worth having. He has got that aerial threat, and he is on for a couple of bonus points here and there if Brighton do keep a clean sheet. Into midfield, and it doesn't look that different, to be honest. I think my midfield is probably the most stable bit of my team, moving from pre-wildcard to post-wildcard. Still got Saka, Matoma, and Rashford because they're all in great form. Arsenal's fixtures, you might argue, are not great, but they're also not terrible. And I think to get rid of all Arsenal players when they're top of the league is risky at best. They're still scoring goals, and Saka's involved in most of those goals. I think if you can't afford Saka, Martinelli would be someone I would seriously consider getting in my team. Mitoma kind of links with Dunk, still got those Brighton players, and I think with players like Mitoma and Saka, me personally, I'd lose too much value. I've had them in for so long. I think if I sold them and wanted them back, I'd be losing like point 0.3, point 0.4 million on each player. So to me, it's just not worth that gamble because they are good enough that you might want them back. The only difference we've gone for is Salah. Liverpool do have a great double game week in 34 home fixtures to Spurs and Fulham, and Salah is looking like he could be entering that sort of late season push that he does have more often than not, where he racks in those goals. Up front, I've made a couple of changes. I had taken out Kane before they were playing Newcastle, I promise. It's not just a complete knee-jerk reaction because I do like the look of Solanke away at Southampton. He also has Leeds at home in game week 34, which we'll go into in a little bit. But I've gone with Jota as well. He's got 4 goals in 2 games. And as we get on with the bench, I do think I had a bit of a dilemma between Tony and Akanji from Man City versus Sufal and Jota. Now, the reason I've gone with Sufal and Jota is because I do like Sufal's attacking threat. He's already got an assist in game week 32. And Jota's one of those players that he's on form, and I do think that he's not a rotation risk. I think he is someone that kind of ride the wave with that form. Akanji, like we say, is a rotation risk, and Ivan Toney has not got as good a fixtures, I don't think, in the for the rest of the season, as Liverpool do. The bench, I've got Edison in goal. I am planning on starting Everson just because of Arsenal's attacking threat, but Edison is more for game week 34, and I'm kind of splitting hairs as to whether I start Mitoma in March. And then I've got Shaw from Man United and Soufal from West Ham. Soufal's definitely going to be on the bench. That Liverpool game looks a bit risky. The rest of them, you could maybe rotate them in and out, but I think the starting 11 is as strong as it can be right there. So we're going to get into game week 34. Now, this is where it does get a little bit interesting because of the double game week and because I'm using my bench boost. And it just so happens, this is how the team looks. But my team for game week 34, the bench, pretty much all of them have single game weeks. Apart from Sufal, who I've left there, you could swap him out for Solanke, but I feel like in a normal game week, I probably would start Solanke at home to Leeds rather than Sufal, just because those 2 away fixtures. But nevertheless, it is still a double. And this is where we sort of, my opinion on bench boosting, it's a little bit overrated. I think unless your bench boost is going to have players that all have double game weeks, then you might as well just play them in any game week where your bench has good fixtures. It's almost irrelevant that I've got a double game week this game week, in terms of how the bench looks because they all have single game weeks. Now, having said that, if it was a normal game week, all my bench probably would be starting because I think Everson has got Everton at home, Saka's got Chelsea at home, Dan Burns got Southampton at home, and let's say Solanke, if you were to put him on the bench, he has Leeds at home. All those fixtures, you would start those players. So I think this is a great week to bench boost. And I think it's something which you do have to bear in mind if you are wildcarding or if you do still have your bench boost left. You put your sort of your weakest players, as it were, on your bench, and you say, well, are those fixtures good enough for them to, would I be happy if all of those players were starting this game week? I think if the answer is yes, you play a bench boost. So that's absolutely what I'm going to do in this team. So please do let me know what you think about my team and about the sort of strategy to wildcard and bench boost. Do you think I've got enough double players in? Do you think they're the right sort of players? And please do like and subscribe the video. Like we said at the start, it is greatly appreciated. Managed to get this video within 10 minutes, which is also a great victory. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.